Senior Techno-Functional Consultant at GSI. And hang on, is my screen not moving? There we go. So in today's agenda, I want to start by providing a brief overview of E1 Orchestrator, where it came from. E1 Orchestrator is not new, but I would like to share some quick catch-up notes for folks who may want to get a solid background on E1 Orchestrator as it relates to JDE Edwards EnterpriseOne. Then I will go through the main ingredients to create and run E1 Orchestrators. I also want to share how I understand the AIS server and the Orchestrator Studio. I will also list some security considerations towards the end of the webcast. And then on the second half of the webcast, I will walk you through the key benefits and some of the added value of incorporating E1 Orchestrator to your JDE Edwards EnterpriseOne implementation or current install basis. Now, from an analyst and developer standpoint, I will illustrate how E1 Orchestrator can simplify solutions delivery to your users or data consumers. And then we will conclude with the latest stuff for tools release 924. And I will show you where I got all this information. So, you know, E1 Orchestrator, for some, it may sound overwhelming. Maybe for others, it may just be another system or application that we need to learn and integrate. In this webcast, I will attempt to provide ground level information to make us feel comfortable and excited. So, okay, hang on, why is my screen not moving? But I will, there we go. So I tried to make this more dramatic, but I didn't have enough time to put some music in it. So many years ago, 2015 to be exact, Oracle released a machine-to-machine service where a service can take data from one machine into another machine, then into JDE Edwards applications. And then Oracle branded it as the IoT Orchestrator, Internet of Things Orchestrator. It connects the physical world to the virtual world, and then sensors, beacons, internet services, devices, feeds and updates JDE Edwards applications if you're on tools release 9.1. Now, the IoT Orchestrator transforms raw data into data that can be used by JDE Edwards EnterpriseOne with these components, you know, whitelist, rules, engine, cross-reference, and service request. You will notice that this component has not really changed a lot. So the core for the orchestrators are still these main components. And now, here's a bit of a disclaimer. I will stay away from E1 Orchestrator hands-on or demo and you know, workbook exercises, you know, because we have been conducting free workshops all over the country, and we will have a lot more soon. So stay tuned for announcements and email on the workshop that will come near you. You know, REST, Groovy, JSON, and other orchestrator and web-related scripting. We will touch it, but we will not go into details because, you know, these are action-packed scripting tools, and it requires a lot of time, and it should have its own webcast. So stay tuned for that as well. Now, JDE Edwards E1 Orchestrator can trace its roots from a type of JDE service between devices that was originally labeled by Oracle as Internet of Things. Simply, IoT Orchestrator takes data from one device into another device, and then JDE, you know, will process it. Now, It's a bit tedious at the start to build and maintain because you require special skills. Now, several years later, it morphed into a sophisticated bi-directional interface using modern and cool technology from Oracle. It is now further away from just interconnected devices because it exchanges information with third-party systems and the cloud. Now, if you look, this is the same diagram or process flow I saw when Oracle first introduced the Orchestrator as IoT Orchestrator. And this is back in like 2015, 2016. And I'm pretty sure this slide will still be relevant 5 years or more from now and beyond, because it provides the end-to-end link between JDE and interfaces via service requests, rules, whitelist, cross-reference, etc. These are all major components to build an orchestration. So E1 Orchestrator provides key processing capabilities for practically all JD Edwards EnterpriseOne applications to service, consume, and process, either from internal applications, from external devices, and other software interfaces. Now, as I've mentioned, it was renamed from IoT Orchestrator into an E1 Orchestrator, or what we call now E1 Orchestrator. Although the orchestrator is an integral part of the IoT configuration within JD Edwards EnterpriseOne, the orchestrator functionality has expanded to support various integrations, including integrations to cloud services, to third-party applications, to custom programs, and many more. Now, we can keep using it to integrate JD Edwards with IoT devices, but now we're using it for REST-based integrations within JD Edwards EnterpriseOne. So you're going to ask, I mean, what is Oracle up to? Originally, the E1 Orchestrator, originally E1 Orchestrator is aimed at business analysts and what they call citizen developers, so that they can build and extend JD Edwards applications without touching application codes. So it has now evolved and has been used by developers, by technical resources, system administrators as tools or as a tool to help them with their customizations within the application. Now, there are external interfaces and routine tasks that they want to automate, and they're seeing the value of using the orchestrator so that they can provide better information and timely and more efficient to their data consumers. Now, the E1 Orchestrator has evolved into a collect, filter, and analyze act application that is confirmed for real-time data. And their best add-on, as you can see today, they don't want to call it as an add-on, but it's a service, and I'll show you a slide on that later. But E1 Orchestrator is using the quadrant as the main centerpiece to collect, to filter, to analyze, and to act on real-time data. Now, harnessing the Internet of Things, the orchestrator enables the IoT configuration to enable devices and machines to become users of EnterpriseOne applications. They feed data to orchestrations now, and then they turn JD Edwards systems into a state so that JD Edwards systems can stay up to date and accurate with less human intervention. Now, they also simplified orchestration development. Before, you need special skills. Now there's an Orchestrator Studio because it enables business analysts and people who don't really need to program and code to provide service to the people they support. And then, the goal when they started the IoT Orchestrator, Oracle, when they started the IoT Orchestrator, is to harness the digital economy. because the orchestrator integrates with external systems, the cloud, um, and third-party interfaces, allowing JD Edwards Enterprise One applications to send and receive data uh, for to integrate business processes within um, the transactions that they are performing on a day-to-day basis. And eventually they would like to have less human involvement, because when you're orchestrating um, your key business processes, you know you want to be able to automate routine tasks, mundane tasks, repetitive tasks, so that you can focus and concentrate on complex processes that would require more attention than you keying in, than you routinely doing stuff, day in, day out, periodically. So this four quadrants is the centerpiece for the E1 orchestrator, and I'm sure it will still evolve as the orchestrator matures. So I picked this one up from one of Oracle's webinar, and actually this is a pretty cool slide, because it actually shows you how JD Edwards EnterpriseOne Orchestrator is becoming the key component in making JD Edwards adopted the digital platform. Orchestrator can transform the EnterpriseOne system from a transaction-based system of records into a system that provides a dynamic reflection of your real-time business operations. Orchestrations provide access to EnterpriseOne data and applications as service. Technically, industry standard REST service, which you can easily create using Orchestrator Studio without having to learn the REST, scripting tool. We can integrate cloud services, mobile devices, and within EnterpriseOne itself, you can invoke services that can take advantage of the business data and EnterpriseOne functionality, okay, without really touching any code. So the package deployments, the package builds, promotions, and fat clients, it's not going to go away. But if you are into if you are in a situation where, my developer is so tied up, when can I get this solution? You have the E1 Orchestrator to use and take advantage of. So, I mean, but really, what is E1 Orchestrator? Okay. As I mentioned in the previous slide, for some it may be overwhelming. For others, it may just be another system. But is it a JDE module? What is E1 Orchestrator for? What do we need to run it? These are questions that somehow you want some simplified answer. And if you have been hanging out at the our GSA website and reading our articles regularly, we just published, actually this week, we just published a GSI article on the 101 of E1 Orchestrator. And you'll find more if you visit that GSI article. But I'll summarize it here for you. So is JDE, is it a JDE module? So I have been in the JD Edwards space long enough that I associate a module or application set to business and system functions, like the home builder management module, the real estate management module, apparel management, or the more popular manufacturing and financial modules that are implemented to process industry transactions and algorithm. Those modules or application sets have their own JD Edwards system ID. For example, home builder management is 44H. Real estate management is system 15. Orchestrator does not have a designated system ID from JDE, because we can build and launch it on top of practically every available JD Edwards module. So JD Edwards E1 Orchestrator offers processing capability for JD Edwards enterprise modules or application sets to deliver, consume, and process data within and between applications, as well as from external devices and other software interfaces. So again, there is no JDE product code. So E1 Orchestrator is not a JD Edwards module. But what is E1 Orchestrator for? So E1 Orchestrator is to provide timely, efficient, and useful information to help decision makers and people that are running the organization. It is for the entire population of JD Edwards EnterpriseOne, not just for the business analysts, not just for developers. Functional analysts, business analysts, will be able to create link to automate, simplify, or extend a process without the need to revise programs. Now, developers have the ability to use another tool that allows them to build or enhance and interface applications using the current technology within the JD Edwards toolbox and the Oracle toolbox as well. And then system administrators, CNCs, can transform tedious manual tasks into automated operations, so that they can provide timely, they can provide like summarized information to their users or the people they support. And then what do we need to run it? So here's my simple recipe, to run or to have a up and running or E1 Orchestrator. The main ingredient for me is we need an AIS server. We also need, of course, the Orchestrator Studio and a dash of citizen developer. Okay. The foundation for E1 Orchestrator is the JD Edwards Application Interface Service, or AIS server. So Oracle has defined the JD Edwards AIS server as the communication interface between JD Edwards EnterpriseOne and various AIS server clients. So the AIS server provides a JSON over REST lightweight interface that enables it to interact with JD Edwards applications and forms. Now, any client or software language that uses JSON or REST can interface with an AIS server. So for example, if your bread toaster can talk JSON or REST, you can control it and have JD Edwards manage your bread toasting every morning. So this slide shows a high-level view, and then we'll save the detailed illustrations for future webinars. But to summarize, JD Edwards AIS sits in the middle of JDE servers. As you can see, the HTML server is in between the AIS server and all the JD Edwards Enterprise Server database and everything that runs your traditional JD Edwards system. The AIS server is not directly connected to the enterprise server, as you can see. Freeing it from any load when running orchestration. So my point here is that it will not have any impact on on your interactive and batch applications, and it will you don't have to worry about um, resources being stolen by your orchestration, because it does not really go direct to your enterprise server. And then on top of the AIS server, the other foundation for E1 Orchestrator is the E1 Orchestrator Studio, and of course you need citizen developers to make it work, to build your orchestration. You know, Oracle invested a lot to make the JD Edwards EnterpriseOne orchestrations easier and friendlier to create and maintain. So it allows citizen developers to create, to test, to deploy orchestrations in a single canvas or a single screen now. And I'm talking about the Orchestrator Studio 9.2.4. The JD Edwards Orchestrator Studio now is very intuitive. It has a graphical user interface. Even a non-developer can quickly learn and put into action really quick. And it's interfacing, and the interface or the screen is still evolving as we speak, because right now, if you have been following and using the studio, it has evolved into release 8, which is actually, no, sorry, release 8 is now it's one release lower than the current release of 9.2.4, which I'm going to show in the later slides in this webcast. Now, so to sum it up, okay, E1 orchestration or orchestrator is a service. Think of it as a helper to JDE and anything and everything that can interface to JD Edwards. All right. Plus, it does not require full-time coding and orchestrations, and can be created with less cost. It has a lot of flexibility, specializing when especially when analyzing inbound and outbound data. I will show the E1 Orchestrator values and benefits in the next few slides. Okay. So to sum it up again, it's a service. All right. And here are the capabilities. I actually took it from one of John Bassett's presentation. The webinar is called Orchestrator for Techies. It's a cool slide because it lists the features of the orchestrator. It's a complete set. It has form requests, data requests, messaging, notifications, and reporting with flexible connection capabilities. And then if you know Java, you can go nuts with all the customizations that can be attached to it. This is a loaded slide that I picked up from that Orchestrator for Techies webcast, and I'm sure GSI will present another flavor of this in the coming months or so. All right, so here's the good metrics that I built, where I said, you know what, does E1 Orchestrator add value? This is probably one of my favorite slides together with the other 35 slides, but it shows a list of business and systems use cases. Some are simple and other a bit more involved. I try to come up with a sample where I can put E1 Orchestrator to action, and to show people and prove that does it really add value to our business or to the way we do business. I listed 10 use cases and one wild card. There's a lot more use cases, but the samples listed here should be enough to make my point in the next several slides that I'm going to show you. So the list of business and systems example where Orchestrator add a lot of value are way beyond this. But in most cases, they are just variations. from what's listed here, like the mundane task of manual transaction entries. Does E1 Orchestrator add value to it? Yes. Um, and in the past, I had to either open a, JD Edwards table or insert a logic to an application, then deploy it so I can simply invoke a trigger. But not anymore. I mean, application based or application logic based on add, change, delete, Orchestrator can do that for you. And then I have used third-party tools and also created custom JD Edwards to create or to build my own spreadsheet upload. And then connect to another workflow, custom application to send the emails out with documents attachment or document attachments. Orchestrator can do that for you now. And then the IoT Orchestrator has been tried and tested to connect JD Edwards applications to external site using RASD-based scripts. Now, in the latest Orchestrator Studio, Oracle has refined the use of open APIs. These are objects where you can customize and orchestrate routine tasks for server managers. So for system administrator out there who are interested in managing their system and creating automation within the server manager, we have open APIs for that. And then, I dealt with external auditors for more than 5 years. I even presented a session on the yearly routine that I perform to extract and prepare information that the auditors will require. I did that for over 5 years. It's the same exact process. It's the same exact extract. I wish I had the process recorder that creates a form request 8 years ago, because I could have easily just built an orchestration so I can just run and do the same task, routine task, and send it to the auditors. I mean, usually it would take me between 3 to 5 days just to provide them with extracts, and it happens every 6 months or less. And somehow I was thinking, that's like a routine task that I could have probably automated. I mean, I was thinking of creating my own custom apps, but I thought, I mean, is it worth it? But now with E1 Orchestrator, this is something that you can actually create and build organically. And then alerts and routine system health checks are also possible within EnterpriseOne Orchestrator, with very little help needed from third-party applications. So, the last example on this list is just saying that we have to understand what E1 Orchestrator does, or what E1 Orchestrator is before embarking on a massive project like creating our own module. Like if, for example, if you want to build a new JD Edwards cooking module or application, we're gonna and name it as JD Edwards System C00K. Is E1 Orchestrator valuable, or will E1 Orchestrator add value to that? I say no. Why? Or I mean, you can certainly try, but E1 Orchestrator is a service for JDE. It needs JDE. So why will you build another JDE within JDE or something, right? So that's my point on that last slide. And again, E1 Orchestrator is a service, okay? And it cannot save the world, but it can help provide relief, a lot of relief, in cases where you have to repeat a task on a regular basis, or some tiring mechanical JD Edwards routine. Years ago, I think it was JD Edwards Tools Release 9.0, I had to disable and set the access expiration for users as part of an upgrade process. Now, you will say, okay, it's an easy task. All you have to do is disable and then set the access expiration date for users, except that I had to do it for at least 2,500 users. Okay. I didn't have access to the security tables. I didn't have access directly to the database and the tables within JD Edwards. Plus, the auditors, they want it documented by having the application timestamps in it. So I didn't have any choice, you know, basically, but to do it manually. I had to get help from other people to finish it on time. I mean, I wish E1 Orchestrator was available during that time. It would come in handy to help me with this mundane task. I would have simply create a process recorder and then create a form request, and then there you go, run my orchestration so that I can just disable and then set the expiration date for those 2,500 users. Now, before I dive into compare a typical system development and value of E1 Orchestrator design process, let me show you a couple of slides on how the orchestrator has been putting JDE services to use and its integration with the cloud and third-party applications. So both of these slides shows non-JD Edwards systems, devices, applications on the left side, communicating with JD Edwards EnterpriseOne using orchestrator services and algorithm. Okay, I'm sure you've seen this before. I took it from an Oracle webcast called Orchestrator Way to Digital Business. This is a pretty cool slide. There's a lot of this that they had on that presentation. And I picked the two best ones so that I can show you, how the application on the left side would integrate and communicate with JD Edwards on the right side using REST and the E1 Orchestrator. Okay, here's another one where a cloud service, third-party system talks and send inbound, outbound information to JD Edwards applications using REST. So these slides are slides that that Oracle has been using when when they were promoting, when they were introducing JD Edwards with IoT Orchestrator back in like 2016, 2017, and they're still using it now because this thing has not changed. And what's improving is actually the orchestrator portion of it, which is actually towards the right side of the slide. So enough of those slides. I want to show you some, some sort of disruptor to how we typically do things in general and specific to JD Edwards. And I'm talking about the typical software development lifecycle. Okay. In some shape, form, and language, we have seen a stereotypical software development lifecycle like this. So we kick off a project, could be a big project, small project, or just a tiny development task. Then we start gathering requirements. Then detailed analysis to start designing. And then we pass it on to the development team, for coding, for unit testing, and then as soon as something is ready to be tested, it goes through several iteration of testing and program compiles or compilations, okay? And then retesting before we can push it up to the production environment. So, and then the cycle starts again for changes, revisions, or new requests. That's your typical software development life cycle. So now let's mess it up a little bit by making it specific to JD Edwards. So we go through all the SDLC steps, but as you know, development in JD Edwards will require a development machine, also known as the fat client. We need to have some knowledge of the development tools, and in some cases, C programming, the C programming language is needed. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the fat client. The fat client, it paid the bills for me, and it still is, because it's the developer tool. It's something that we use to maintain, enhance, and manage our JD Edwards codes. We need OMW skills, in order for us to do change control, to check out and to check in. I mean, Oracle and JD Edwards will not take this away, okay? It will still be a fat client. It will still be a developer tool, probably until, we are all moving on or retired or probably done with what, with our JD Edwards task, because this development protocol, it is so stable that it will continue to be a key component of JD Edwards, okay? The reason why I'm showing this to you is I just want to show you how E1 Orchestrator can actually improve this, specifically if, if there is really no resources that can help you code or change code immediately, okay? So next slide, okay? We have the typical software development life cycle with JD Edwards change control. Now let's add the management of change control and the component that you use within JDE to deploy your application. So from the previous slide, we have the fat client or the development machine creating or revising the application. But within the JD Edwards compile or deployment SDLC box, okay, we have project promotion, we have package assembly, and package build, package deployment. See, once you reach that step with, within the JD Edwards development lifecycle, this particular control or added step or sub-step within the promotion of your project has to be done in order for you to be able to see the application in real form. As you know, once coding is done and unit tested, we need to promote this, so that we can show the revised object to our users. In the past, we need to secure a quiet moment in the system before deploying packages, but but that has improved, and deployment. But deployment is still a key step to get our changes or new applications out to the end users. So, okay, SDLC or with E1 Orchestrator with all this project promotion, okay, from the previous slide, I've shown you the full JD Edwards EnterpriseOne development lifecycle and the change control or the that goes with it. Now let's shake this thing up a little bit in a positive way and an efficient way, and to simplify. Once you do an E1 orchestrator or once you build your own orchestration, okay, the fat client and the change control process goes away. You can go from design to production with a little bit of testing using E1 Orchestrator. Of course, you still need admin approval. Don't think of this as it's going to be a free for all. Publishing the UDOs and orchestrators has to be approved by administrators, but there is no deployment step that will slow you down, and then you can test as you go, right? Again, let me put it back. Look at this. All that with E1 Orchestrator, that goes away. You go straight. I don't call it SDLC anymore. I'm just going to call it E1 Orchestrator. So from analysis, from design, whatever your thought process is, you can simply just set it over to your production environment. And of course, with testing, of course, with approvals, but you skip a lot of steps. So I hope that will remain the same, because I'm sure at some point once the auditors get a deeper understanding of this service, the publication steps may be changed, or they may be a little bit regulated. But at this point, I mean, right now, let's just enjoy it. So next slide, the E1 Orchestrator design process. This image is like a storyboard that represents the orchestration process or design process. It flows from left to right. As you can see, there are input or the data that is originate or starts any orchestration. All right, it goes through rules, and then it does the cross reference to label the area that contains the table. It's necessary so that it can translate the rules into a service request that will then transform it or send it over to the JDE Edwards EnterpriseOne application. So from the design process that we usually know or implement using a traditional SDLC, within E1 Orchestrator, I mean, all these components are built in. You don't really need to create your own rules, because within the orchestration, there are specified or there are defined rules that you can implement or use when building your own orchestration. All right, so I included the following slides just to give you an idea on the simplicity or complexity of creating an orchestrator. I mean, we can build a very simple standalone orchestrator with just one or a few service requests, and then a couple of rules with multiple steps. Now, orchestrator can call another orchestration or another orchestrator, and that can morph into more orchestrator getting called into multiple orchestration. So as you get try to solve complex issues or business problems, you can start harnessing the power of of scheduling, and connectivity within the orchestration. So my point here, and the reason why I pulled this from one of our GSI Orchestrator workshop, is we can build a simple standalone orchestrator or a very complex, sophisticated orchestration, depending on the issue or the business use case that we're trying to solve. And here's another one. I mean, if you know scripting tools like Groovy, and then if you have access to Java development, I mean, you can I mean, I can almost say that the sky is the limit on this, specific, especially if you have the time and of course the resources and plus the skills in doing all this script. So those two slides are from the GSI Orchestrator workshop. I pulled it in so that you can see, how we can build a standalone orchestrator all the way up to an interconnected device that you can actually use also on third-party apps in the cloud. Anyway, so security considerations, all right. The AIS server or AIS service within orchestration is stateless. meaning it does not stay. Each call or program call or orchestration call, it passes the credentials to establish a separate EnterpriseOne session. So after the transaction is complete, the session is closed. All right. And then in addition to passing credentials for authentication, you can employ a second level of security for the orchestrator through whitelisting. Okay. Now there's a lot of white papers on whitelisting to kind of like provide more details um, on the use and the importance of it. Okay, but whitelisting is very important, especially when you are locking down or tightening up security on your orchestration. Now,
Jenna, just one sec. Sorry, really quick. We just have about 3 more minutes before we go into the, or actually about 4 more minutes until we go into the questions, if that's okay.
Yep. I think I got like a couple more slides. So anyway, the last 2 bullets, I just want to remind you that whenever you're exposing orchestrations, you need to restrict the access to it by building or using an HTTP proxy server. All right, we at GSI, we have really we have like a cool team that does all this. So shoot us an email and we'll provide you some guidance on how to do all this stuff. And then I think the last bullet is to maintain the single AIS server for orchestration calls. This is more for performance related topic. Anyway, latest top word sharing. So as I mentioned, the latest Orchestrator Studio is for tools release 9.2.4, and they also called it Orchestrator Studio 9.2.4. It is built into the AIS server. They took out the ADF requirement on it, so when you're building an Orchestrator Studio, you don't need an ADF to build it. And then they also released Studio 8 so that people who are on orchestration version 1 and version 2 can manage and edit their old orchestration, but all new orchestrations will have to be on version 3 moving forward. And then Studio security. Now you can use EnterpriseOne application to grant access to the studio, and then for scheduler, the administrators can also manage the scheduler via EnterpriseOne application. And then here's a screenshot of the latest Orchestrator Studio on the right side. As you can see, it's no longer like a sequential type of a workflow. It has a start icon, an end icon, and that little plus in between. Don't get me wrong, that little plus in between, that's very powerful because you can expand it into multi layers in between your start and end process. And then here's the new look EnterpriseOne Orchestrator Studio. This is actually, this is pretty cool. I like this one better because it's in basically one screen, and then you can call and you can launch your JD Edwards EnterpriseOne application within this Orchestrator Studio interface. All right, so what we covered today, we went through the E1 Orchestrator overview. I showed you where it came from, the key features, interaction with JD Edwards EnterpriseOne, and then we talked about main ingredients to implement, to build, secure, and run E1 orchestration. Plus, where the AIS server sits and what the Orchestrator Studio does. Also, I showed you that matrix on how Orchestrator can best transform business processes, the benefits and values. And then a few slides ago, the latest tools release that we have right now. And then I dated those today because it will change very soon. So stay tuned for that. Now I got all this mostly from our GSI webcast, but there's a couple of documents. All right, there's a couple of documents that that I would like to note here, specifically the installation of Orchestrator components, the Orchestrator Studio, and one Oracle webinar or webcast called the Orchestrate Your Way to Digital Business. But most of it came from our workshop, and I also got the slides, some of it from the Orchestrator for Dummies and Orchestrator for Techies. So I think that was the last slide for me, Brooke.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Chanel. All right, let me know if you can see my screen.
I can see your screen now.
Perfect. Okay, so I got a couple questions here. All right, since we're running out of time, I'm just going to skip right over to the questions here. Okay, so all right, our first question comes from Marie, and Marie said, what is the best tools release to be on?
It depends. If you right now, if you're on, like, I guess if you're on 9.2, I say go for 9.2.4.
Okay, great. And then we got one more question here, and this is from Mark, and Mark said, should all users be allowed to create orchestrations, or should it be more controlled?
It should be more controlled as far as I'm concerned, because if you expose all your users to it, now you're not just supporting the business and the user, you're also supporting what the user is building as far as orchestration is concerned. So select a few, get some power users, and then restrict it to those guys first before, kind of adding more to it. It's like, don't let them drive the car or drive the big rig if they only know how to drive a car.
I like it. Makes sense. Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending and your questions today. And thank you so much, Janelle, for your presentation today. It was full of a lot of really good information. And as a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit, and you will be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website where you can access the recording from today's webcast, as well as a copy of the presentation. And after today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card, and anyone that attended the entire webcast will be eligible, and we will notify the winner. And if you have any questions, you can contact Janelle or myself. And our contact info will be listed on the email that we send out. And I just want to thank everybody again for attending our presentation. And again, thank you so much, Janelle. And
thank you. Thanks for your help, Brooke.
Yeah, we hope that you guys have a great day. Thank you so much.